here. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be making painted planters. So thanks to everybody that picked up their kit, and we're going to go ahead and go over the material list and then we'll get started painting. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our project we're going to be doing today. I sent home 2 terracotta planters, so we're going to be painting 2 of them today. So I'm going to demonstrate both designs. So here's my small one that I did as well. So it's up to you how you want to handle yours, if you want to do one of each like I did, or if you want to do a matching set of the larger and smaller planters. That's totally up to you. I'll demonstrate both. And as always, there's tons of ideas online if you wanted to go completely your own route as far as what the design would be. All right, so I did send everybody home 2 sizes of these terracotta planters. Like that. And then I sent home 6 colors of paint. We're working with primary yellow, Mars black, violet, turquoise teal, magenta, and our trusty titanium white. All right, so go ahead and grab yourself a water cup and a variety of paintbrushes, and maybe you want to put your paint out on the a piece of a plate or some sort of a palette, because we might do a little mixing and stuff like that. We're going to be creating some green and maybe add a little white to some of our colors just to make them a little more opaque. All right, so go ahead and get your materials ready and we're going to get started. All right, as I said on your sheet, I gave you the option if you wanted to paint your planters ahead of time the white. So some of you might have chosen to do that. I did do that with this one, and it did just make the paint more opaque. I didn't do it with this one, and it did take a couple layers. And actually what I ended up having to do was mix some white into some of these colors because the terracotta was kind of shining through. But I didn't want to paint everybody's ahead of time. I wasn't sure if anybody wanted to maybe incorporate this really pretty color in their design. Like I said, you don't have to do exactly what I'm painting today. So I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to do a larger version of this guy so I have a complete set, and then I'll do a smaller version of the teal flowers. Okay, so I'm going to take my larger one and paint it completely white as I did this one, and then I'll have that dry, and it really does dry pretty quickly on the terracotta. So I grabbed a pretty large brush here and just plain white that I sent home. I do have a variety of brushes because we're going to be doing some detail work, so if you do have a nice detail brush for some of the outlines, or if you have paint markers, that's even better. I actually tried it out with a paint marker when I was doing some of the outlines, and it really did make my life a lot easier. Okay, so I'm just gonna, if you are doing this design, go ahead and paint one of your pots white if you haven't already done so, and then we'll regroup and get going on the design. Okay, so I'm just finishing up painting mine white here. I'm just gonna do one coat. I did paint the bottom just because I wanted to kind of have that, that full coverage there. And you'll notice as you're going that, and this is all optional, and as I always say, feel free to use a different color combination than me if you like. So as you can see, I painted a little bit on the inside, just if you are gonna use this as a planter, you know how sometimes the flower, the soil doesn't fill up all the way to the top, so I just painted a little on the inside. Just to give it that, kind of finished look if for some reason the soil sinks down a little bit, or, and you wouldn't have it probably all the way filled to the top. So I'm just doing this coat here, and you might just be hanging tight right now if you decided to go with both your planters with that teal design that I'm going to demonstrate. All right, so I might get messy here with my paint on my hands, but I'm just, so I went like, right below the lip. And you could even paint the whole inside if you felt like it, or you don't have to do this at all, like I said, because the terracotta is a nice natural color. So maybe you just want to do some flowers and leave that background that way. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and then we'll get started on our second design. Okay, so when I first started this sample, it was definitely a little bit dicey with the colors, trying to make them really pop through the terracotta. So what I'm going to suggest we do as we go is what we'll do is we'll add a tiny bit of white to each of our colors, and that's going to make them a little bit more opaque. We still might need 2 coats, but that's really going to make our lives easier as far as the flowers kind of really popping with color. So I did I did 4 flowers, 2 of them kind of coming off the top like this, and then 1 kind of coming down the bottom, and then 1 full one right here on the side. So let's start with our big, bold, big flower on the bottom. I'm gonna grab our yellow and, maybe a smaller brush just so we kind of can really get that good detail. And like I said, I'm just gonna mix a little white, just a little bit. Not enough to really change the hue, but enough to make it just a little bit more opaque. All right, so and as always, don't have to exactly follow my design here. So, and if you're doing this just on your bigger pot right now, which you might be, just go ahead and, you know, make it a little bit bigger than I'm going to demonstrate. So you'll see, I mean, the white does help the yellow for sure. We might still need 2 coats, but that's okay. So get that nice little circle there for the beginning of our little succulent flower. And then I'll grab another brush just to make it easier so I don't have to keep cleaning them. But if you want to just keep cleaning and kind of wiping them, don't want to have too much water on the brush at any time, really. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a tiny bit of pink, white to my pink. Not enough really to change the color, but just enough. Just going to add that little bit of opaque we need. And like I said, if you're doing this on your big pot, that's fine. Just make it a little bit bigger than what I'm demonstrating right now. And I'm going to do these little petals here. And don't panic if you think, oh geez, that's not looking dark enough, because we'll darken it up for sure. It's a pretty simple design. What really brings it together, I think, are the really nice outlines and the dot work and the colors. I always love this combination of color myself. So maybe you're going to do about 4 or 5 of these to start. Working with my magenta with just a teeny bit of white in there. I'm doing my smaller version of this pot. Okay, get that so far. That brush cleaned. So if we're working on this one now, if you are doing your bigger pot. So now I'm going to outline it with some purple, and this one is very important to put white because the purple with the terracotta, for some reason, they don't go well together. So even this might, you know, take a coat or 2, but the white does help immensely. I'm just following along the same line of the first petal I made. So there's 2 options for this flower. You can stagger the petals, or you can do it like this. So I'll demonstrate both. And maybe you incorporate both. Maybe you decide you like them staggered better. And don't worry about if you know, there's a couple lines that maybe aren't perfect, because we're going to be outlining that in black later. So don't fret if you're, you know, there's a couple spots that look a little smudgy or aren't perfect. All right. So it's, you know, a pretty thick little line here. Just working with the purple with a tint of white in there. Okay. And you'll see the terracotta absorbs the paint very quickly, which is nice. So we can get this done all in one sitting. And you'll notice I'm not broadcasting live right now just because there's a lot of parts to this project that are very time consuming. And you know, it would be a lot for me to be on there for that amount of time. And it gives you the option, you know, maybe you take a pause, take a break, work on one of them and come back and then finish up the other one. All right. Cool. Okay. So now I'm going to grab the yellow, which I already have some mixed up and going. Skip that. And like I said, try to keep your brush pretty dry. And now I'm just going to outline this one more time. So it's that yellow that we're working with just a little bit of white. And this will make all the difference in the world as far as coats of paint needed. All right. I had a lot of fun doing this project. I actually had this scheduled for last spring, and then the pandemic happened, so I'm happy to do this year. I don't know about all of you, but I love gardening. I can't wait to get out there, get planting. This yellow line might be a little thinner than the layer of purple. Just as a little finishing touch. Okay, so we're gonna let that guy dry a little bit and we'll go on to our next flower. So the next one I did is this one, which is basically gonna be right in the middle of your pot, and you're going to have room for it to, you know, to fully show. So like I said, if you're working with your big one right now, you're just gonna be making it a little bigger. than the one I'm doing, but it's going to be the same concept. We're going to start with, so yeah, about halfway. Start with the yellow middle. And our other pot that we painted white is probably nice and dry by now. Or you might have, like I instructed, done that ahead of time. All right, so get a nice little round center here. All right, I'm gonna go back to my pink. All right, same idea with just a teeny bit of white. So if you left your paint in your cups, that's an option too. You could just add a little white to that cup of pink, and that would really do the trick. All right. So it's kind of like a little point, and then it comes down. Okay. And we'll see, I'll probably have room for about 5 or 6 of these going around. And it's gonna kind of make its way up to the lip of the pot. So that might be a little challenge there to get the shape. That's why working with a detail brush is helpful. All right, so making our way around. And one more petal. I find it easy to kind of rotate the pot as I'm painting, just so I get the best angle. And like I said, if the lines aren't perfectly where you want them to be, we're going to be outlining this later. So there. Okay, so this one I actually did stagger, and I did the purple. You could either outline it like I did the first one, or you could stagger the petals. For the full flower, I kind of like the petals staggered a little bit better, but that's up to you. And you could be working with any color combo right now. You could have started with purple and gone to pink, you know, it really doesn't matter. So I just put a little bit of white in my purple here. Like I said, not enough to really change the color, but enough to make it pop on the terracotta. So these were purchased at Home Depot. So if you really like this and you wanted to, they did have them like one size up, I believe, as well as another size down. So maybe you wanted to do more of these. Definitely suggest picking those up. Save the paint that I sent home. And you can always save the paint, you know, you put it in a little plastic. Gives you the options in projects if you wanted to kind of incorporate another color. And it's just regular acrylic paint we're doing, working with today. Okay. So I'm just staggering these purple buds here. This one's gonna go up the lip a little bit. So there we go, there's our little blossom coming along. Now let's go ahead and outline this in our yellow. Okay. Mix a little more white in my yellow here. Not a very thick line. And we're going to be mixing yellow and the teal later. And that's going to make that nice kind of lime green that we'll use to put some leaves on the side of our flower blossoms. Okay, so go ahead and outline that whole area in yellow. Okay, so we have both of our flowers. I have that completely outlined in yellow. And then we have our big one down here. So let's go ahead and put one that's kind of coming off the top right about here. So it'll be in between your larger one on the bottom and the centered one here. Okay, so if you're working with the big guy, we have this guy. So we're gonna work on this one next, okay? So same exact procedure with the yellow and then pink, or if you want to start with purple and go that way. Actually, maybe I will start with purple. So I'm gonna have it coming about right here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint this side, and then I did go the extra mile and paint the inside just because it would be showing a little bit. So it is a little extra time, but I think it's worth it. So we'll paint this as a start, and then we'll go on the inside when things are a little more dry, and we'll go ahead and paint. And that's optional, like I said. You don't have to. I think it just makes it more finished. So I'm switching it up. I'm actually going to do purple now on the inner row of petals. But if you want to just stick with your pink and stagger the purple on the outside, that's fine. It still looks cohesive whether you start with purple or pink. So after this, we're gonna go ahead and add in our couple leaves. And then it'll be up to you if you want to paint the background teal with me, or if you like the terracotta the way it is. All right. So I have my layer of purple petals. Do the same with the pink. Brush is a little wet. There we go. Yeah, we'll definitely need another layer of paint on this. Pink. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing and layer it, outline it with just a tiny bit of yellow. So this is our smaller flower, so maybe, actually let me get a better detail brush for that. Because this guy is kind of tiny. So. All right, so go ahead and outline that with your yellow. All right, so I finished outlining that one in yellow. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same flower. Maybe it's a little smaller over here. So basically, if you're working with the big one, you're working on this one next. So do the exact same thing, the yellow, the purple or pink, whichever way, and then the yellow outline, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, so I finished the first layer of my fourth flower. So now I'm gonna go ahead and go on the inside and just paint, basically completing the flower on the inside of it. So it'll look like this. So you're just gonna kind of follow along and do it just like that on the inside. I'm gonna do the yellow, the purple, the pink, and the yellow outline, and then we'll get back together and see how we're doing. All right, so now we have basically all our flowers, first layers done, as well as the inside here. As you can see, I wasn't super crazy with my detail and accuracy on the inside, you know, it's just to kind of have it so it looks really finished, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and mix up some green, and we're gonna do a couple of these super cute little leaves coming out the side. It's up to you how many you wanna do. I did basically three to four per each flower for the larger pot. So I'm gonna see what I can fit on the smaller one. So for the green, we're just gonna go ahead and grab a clean brush, dry it out a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and mix yellow and teal to get that like really cute lime green color. So good amount of yellow you'll probably need. One more dab of yellow. So now I have that like nice bright green, all right? So So start with my big one. So I'm just gonna kind of put a couple, you know, wherever they fit. It's a really basic shape here. It's just, we're gonna add the detail in later. So it's really just like a little triangle leaf kind of sticking out the side. And don't fret if you got a little overlapping of color, you know, we're gonna be finishing that off later. So I got one there. Maybe I'll do one here. So it's a little different on the smaller pot. I don't have quite as much space to work with. I'll do one more coming out this side, I think. All right, so I got those leaves. So I'm gonna add in a couple over here as well. And like I said, not gonna be too big. Maybe 3 to 4, depending on how big you made your flowers, how many petals you included. All right, so I got a couple there. They kind of don't look like anything right now. They definitely need that nice detail of the black outline. Okay, so now I'm just adding them to my full flower here. I'll probably give him about 4 little leaves. If you wanted to, you could do like some vines coming around. I mean, it's totally up to you how intricate you want to make your pot. If you want to kind of stray, if you have any ideas. Like I said, there's always, I got the idea for this on Pinterest, and there's so many other cute ones. It was almost hard to choose. I love them all. So definitely check that out if you're really into this and you want to, you know, do something a little bit different. And maybe I'll do one more here. I gave him 5 little leaves. All right, and let's see. One more of my half flower here. And I didn't bother putting leaves on the inside just because, you know, you're probably not going to be able to see it very much anyway. And just to recap again, it's just basically the yellow and that turquoise color mixed that will make our green. I was already sending home a ton of different colors of paint, so I was like, you know what, let's just do some old-fashioned way, and we'll do a little mixing of our own. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I have all my leaves, everything kind of plotted out here. Now it's up to you. You might say that you really like the terracotta background and you want to leave it this way. I'm going to go ahead, just so it matches my original, I'm going to paint it fully teal. So, you know, not too big of a brush, just because we still have to get in between some you know, little crevices here and there. And the teal is pretty solid. We don't necessarily need to add white to it, as you'll see. You could, if you wanted to just lighten it a little bit. So we're just going to carefully paint around our flower, and it doesn't have to be super perfect, with our teal. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up and do the next step. Okay, so I'm just finishing up my teal background here. It did take a little while, I'm sure, as it did for you, just to get those nice details nice and close. And if it's not perfect, as you can see here with mine, don't worry, we're going to be outlining everything like I said earlier. I'm just finishing up the inside here. So I just kind of did it, you know, nothing crazy, just along the lip basically of the pot here. And that way it's really pretty from all angles. So, and it's up to you. I mean, I don't know, of all the colors, I think the teal was really the most opaque. I don't do 2 coats. All I did was really kind of go through it and see where I felt it might have needed a second coat, like a couple little spots where maybe I went a little lighter on the paint. So that's up to you. We are going to do our second coat of all the other colors, so I'll go off camera for that because it'll just be pretty repetitive and you can kind of do that on your own. So there we have it. Oops, looks like I have a little boo-boo there I have to fix. Fix that now. So yeah, what we're going to do is, I guess I dipped that in purple without knowing it. We're just going to go through all our areas and paint one more coat where we think it's necessary. Like this pink is looking pretty good to me. I probably don't need it. The purple looks a little streaky. I'm going to do one more as well as the green and the yellow. So go ahead and do that. Put another coat on all of the areas we've completed, and then we'll start our outlines, and we're pretty much at the finish line of this pot, okay? Okay, so I have my second layer of paint on here. I have to be careful, I'm making a big mess already. So yeah, it should look pretty solid, just like this. I did the same, did a little more, you know, a little extra coat on pretty much everything. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let this sit aside and let's go ahead and start up on our other design, okay? So what we did here, we did a little pattern mixing for this one. And I did these cute black and white stripes along the top. And then I painted the whole thing yellow. Or did I paint the flowers and then paint yellow around it? No, I think I did paint it all yellow, but you could do a different background color if you wanted to and switch up the flowers. If you wanted to do a purple background and do yellow petals, you could do that really. Or if you wanted to leave the white background, that would look super cute too. So let's go ahead and we'll get like a pretty average size brush, nothing too tiny. And we're just gonna do, and this is a little painstaking, but very carefully, and this doesn't have to be black, you could do any color stripe. And just as straight as you can, and I probably did them each about a ½ inch up the side here, and actually came down the lip too. Okay, and then I'm going to come up around the top, one more layer, and make this, for my bigger pot actually I'm going to make them a little bigger, maybe even a little bigger than a ½ inch. It's also less work for me. Alright. So you can pause and fast forward me if you're deciding to just do both of your pots with the other design. Or maybe you fast forwarded to this if this is the design you want to do for both of yours. Alright, so as straight as you can. Alright, and we're going to go around and do that. It's going to be about the same width of white and black. So like I said, a ½ inch give or take, straight as you can. And this will be a little challenging, but it does really make for a very sharp design, in my opinion. I think it's a nice little contrast with the flowers, the little daisies on the side, mixed with the stripes. So I kind of came down the lip here and then up over the top. I didn't drive myself too crazy with going all the way down on the inside. But that's up to you if you wanted to bring it down there. All right, so I'm gonna go around all along just like that, and I'm gonna complete my stripes. So we'll meet back up when we're done with that, okay? Okay, coming down the home stretch on my stripes here. I lucked out, mine worked out pretty perfectly as far as my last stripe fitting in here. So I know this is probably a little tedious of a process, but I think it looks super sharp and super cute as a nice little contrast with your florals. So I'm just very carefully finishing this up. And it looks like our other guy is nice and dry now. So we'll do one more step on this, and then we'll switch back over to our teal green one. All right. Okay. So I have all my stripes here done. My little brush a little wash. Now I'm just going to grab my plain yellow, and I'm going to do, and this is up to you, any color you want. I'm going to do a yellow base over my white, and it should take only one coat just because we did put the first layer of white on there. But you could do any color here if you wanted to do a darker color. The only thing about that is it might be hard to paint the other colors over it. So you might want to do what we did for the first one and do the flowers first, and then ooh, I got a little black on my brush, hold on. So you might want to do the flowers first if that is the case, and then paint in the background afterward. All right, so whatever color you're doing right now, go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up and do some more details on our first planter. All right, I'm checking back in. So I got my 2 flowers on their way with my outlines. So I did outline the inside. It's a little bit of a challenge getting in there, but if you can, it does really help to make the pot look super finished. So I am going to do the inside there very carefully. I know it's hard to get the angle, especially on the little pot, I will say. All right. So keep going on your outlines here. Doing great. Take your time. Feel free to pause me if you need a break. I know it's a lot of tedious work, but it really does make the colors really stand out on this pot, okay? All right, I'm coming in on the home stretch here of my outlining. I know this probably took a while. And it's completely optional if you want, decide to pass up on this, I just think it really ties the whole planter together, even though it's a lot of work. So I'm just finishing up my last leaf here. Got some nice colors going on. I really like how this came out. Okay, so I'm trying to be careful here. All right, so mine is almost done. So one last little step that we did. I did paint these little white dots all around the border of the planter. So it's up to you if you want to do this or not. Again, if you have a paint marker, I'll show it both ways. It's super easy. My paint set actually came with a white paint marker. And I just did little dots all along. Only needed one layer. It's just a nice little intricate touch. Okay. If you don't have a paint marker, no problem at all. You could use the end of the paintbrush, as we've done in many previous classes, and make your dots just like that. Okay. So it's simple. Like I said, it just might take a little bit of time. It's really a nice little detail to add to your planter. And if you're working on your big one or your little one right now, if you want to make it a matching set, it'll be the same concept on the small version or the big version. Okay, so go ahead if you want and go put the dots all along the borders of all of your flowers, okay? Okay, I am done with my dots. So here is my finished planter from today. All right, so I hope you enjoyed painting that one and yours came out great. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our striped one and we'll revisit that. Okay, so we're done with the yellow and the striped part. We're just going to be doing the flowers now. So I'm going to be making mine. This is, I started with the small one. So how many do I have on here? 1, 2, 3. I have 4 flowers on here. So I'll probably try to do 4 on that one as well, just larger scale. Okay, so you can see I kind of staggered them. Some of them are almost cut off on the top, some a little closer to the bottom, one just a big bloom. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So this should be dry by now. And I varied with the center color of the flower between my 3 colors of magenta, teal, and purple, and then we'll mix up some green for the leaves later. So grab a smaller brush. We're going to be doing the same outlining as well with this one. Okay, so I'm going to start with my big teal blossom here. I'm going to start with the purple center. Oh, let's mix a little white in with our purple again like we did last time, just so it's nice and opaque. Won't change the color much. All right. And you'll find you probably do need 2 coats on this part as well. And these are basic, a little bit different shape petals, but basic like daisy shapes. I'm trying to get a nice round circle here. Okay, I'm going to grab another brush. Which one do I want? Okay, and I'm going to do some teal colored petals here. And they're just basic, let me make sure there's no water on my brush. And they're just the basic oval shape. Okay. another one here. So yeah, this is another one of those projects that can be a little tedious, a little repetitive. But if you're a gardener like me, it'll be a really nice addition to your porch or your patio or your garden out there in the yard. I'm just making these petals here. All right, so go ahead around your daisy and finish up the petals, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, so I finished my petals here. I'm going to mix up some more of that green like we did earlier, just with the yellow and the teal together. And I think I'm going to paint him a little stem. I ended up having a little space between my petals. I figure I'll do a little stem for him here. And just a little low down leaf. A little more yellow in here. All right. You can always add in another layer of paint later. Okay, so there's our first blossom. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a pink one with a teal center. Okay, so this one maybe I'll do a little higher up and a smaller so I can have a longer stem coming down. It might help putting a little bit of white in the teal. It does make it a little more opaque on the yellow. Like I said, I think I'll make this flower a teeny bit smaller so I have room for a longer stem. Okay. Now I'll get started on my pink petals. So depending on the size of your flower, maybe like 6 or 7 petals, or maybe less. Putting a tiny bit of white in, just like before. Just basic round oval petals. And they don't have to be perfect because we're going to be outlining them and sharpening up the edges. So you might be working on your smaller one now. So you just be doing smaller scale flowers like I did on this one. Really whatever fits, go with the flow on your design. Can't really go wrong. If you do make a mistake, you can probably let it dry and just paint over it. Might take a few layers, but it should not be a problem. So you can see it's a little light. I might have to do a second coat. My way around this flower. Sorry, there's a bit of a glare in this room. I'm going to see how this turns out because I did 4 flowers on my small version of this, but I might have room for more depending. Make my way around. Every once in a while, take a look at your pot from a few sides, see that your flowers are symmetrical as possible. Okay. All right. So I have my pink blossom now. I made it a little close to my blue one, that's okay. So I'm going to grab my yellow and teal mix again. I'm going to give this one a little stem as well. I have a little more space down there, so maybe I'll make the leaf a little bigger. Okay, so now we have two little flowers here. All right, so now let's make our way around, and this time I'm going to switch up to a purple one with a pink center. Okay, I'm going to do a nice big bold one in the middle. Again, just a teeny bit of white in there. About halfway down. And you could try a different flower on this too. I think tulips would be cute. You could do sunflowers. Plenty of options if you want to take a look at some ideas online. All right, so I got my pink center, and now I'm going to do some nice purple petals. Same shape as before. Pretty much just dry brush with the paint here. We don't really want it to be too thin or watered down so it drips. All right, so go ahead and put all your petals on the purple flower, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, so I have all my blossoms done here. I'm just going to add a couple leaves to my pink one I just completed. And I did 2 for my purple, but you could do more if you want. I'm going to see how this looks here. I did have it overlap a little with the blue. I think that's okay though. That's what happens with flowers in a garden. All right. Actually, I think I'm going to add another leaf to my purple one up here in the corner. So go ahead and take a look at yours now and see where you might want to add another leaf or anything like that. Yeah, I might actually put a stem on this one just because it looks like it's floating a little funny to me at least. Okay, cool, it's better. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put a second coat on all of the flowers that we've made. So start with your teal one if that's how you started. That should be the driest, and go ahead and put a second coat, and then we are at the finish line of this project, okay? All right, so I'm doing my second coat of purple right now, and I just wanted to give you guys a tip. Definitely put a little white in there just to really get a pop of color, because I found it definitely needed that. I think it's still a nice shade of purple, very springy. So yeah, definitely get a little white in there, otherwise it's just too dark against the yellow. Alright. So it's going to change the shade of purple a little bit, but it won't be that kind of like brassy yellow purple that just doesn't look great. Okay. Alright, so keep going. I did my teal and green so far, and I'm just working on purple and then pink, and then we'll do our outlines and we are finito. All right. Oh, okay, so I have all of my layers of paint. I'm pretty happy with how the coverage is with the 2 coats. If you're a super perfectionist and you want to let this dry a little longer and add a 3rd coat, you could, but I think this is looking pretty good for me. So why don't you go to the first one that you did the coat for, and we're going to do the same exact process we did with our first pot, and we're going to, I'm just trying to find my best brush here, and use your nice thin brush, nice good point here, and we're going to be outlining in black, just as we did before. So slow and steady wins the race as always. Nice thin And it's just a nice way to really kind of bring the whole thing together and give you the chance to kind of straighten out some edges that maybe were a little, you know, a little smudgy or didn't turn out perfectly. So nice and slow here with your black thin line. Every once in a while you might need to just give your brush a little wipe. And just be careful because your second coat of paint might be a little tacky. Alright. So we're going to be doing this for each petal, and I'll demonstrate the leaf as well. It's going to be similar to how we did our leaf in our first pot. And I did outline the stem. Nice and slow and steady here. So I got a nice little line here in my leaf, and then about 3 veins. Okay. All right, so go ahead and work on outlining your flowers, and if you do have a paint marker, you can go ahead and grab that, and then we'll meet back up and check in, okay? All right, so I'm on the home stretch here of my outlining. Hope you're doing well and just taking your time with it. I know it's a little tedious. So on my last flower here, it did dry pretty quickly, so I'm able to do all of these without interruption. And I got my leaf here. Not too much paint. And like I said, take your time. Alright, I'm going to add my veins to these ones. Okay. I know it's a challenge to keep the line thin sometimes. Once in a while you might have to give your brush a little clean. Okay. Yay! Alright, so I have all my outlining done here. Carefully taking a look. And then there was one just last little finishing touch I did. Just like we did a hint of white on our turquoise pot. I just put little white line of paint on each of the petals. Alright, so again, nice thin brush. A good clean and a good white. And mine are pretty dry. Just be careful around your outlines if they're still a little tacky. I just did a little white line, not all the way to the end, coming from the center. Okay. All right, so go ahead and do that to all your petals. Well, Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning and painting with me. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did as well. We'll take a look one more time at our fun creations today. So I think they came out really cute. I hope you enjoy using these in your garden. And if you'd like to send me your creations, I love to see what you've been painting. You could just email me, Nikki at porchflibrary.org. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon for our next craft.